Yes, ladies and gentlemen, I can see some of you are posting it on your social media. So do not forget to use the hashtag and please visit the Equalify booth outside the ballroom. Thank you. All right, moving forward, building a robust and harmonious team and encompassing both family and non-family talent is absolutely crucial for ensuring a family's legacy endures and thrives across generations. This panel will delve into the dynamics, best practices, and strategic approaches for effective team building within the unique construct of a family office. Joining our esteemed panel are Mr. Ramesh Agarwal, Managing Director, Agarwal Packers and Movers Ltd. Mr. Nilang Jain, Partner CIO, GreenGen Family Office. Our session will be expertly chaired by Dr. Tulsi Jayakumar, Executive Director, Center for Family Business and Entrepreneurship, SPJIMR. Please welcome them on stage with a big round of applause.
Good afternoon to all of you who are assembled here. The topic for today's discussion is about trying to build family and non-family teams in order to ensure a transgenerational legacy. I think it's very important for all of us who are assembled here that while family offices are just part of the galaxy of entities that a family business has around it, but somewhere we need to understand that the business family is at the center of every entity that is being created. And so it's important that we don't lose focus of that particular business family. So let me start with Mr. Agarwal and Nilang in that order as to what transgenerational legacy actually means for you. Because if I may just introduce Nilang, I think the family office came up as part of a monetization event. So when there is a monetization event, and that's how family offices many a times are set up, what happens to the legacy? What does legacy mean in that context? And in your context, sir, how do you look at transgenerational legacy, which is a second generational business at this point of time?
सबको नमस्ते. In fact, 39 years के अनुभव के हिसाब से मैं केवल आपका वो एक अनुभव ही साझा करूँगा. फैमिली लेगेसी जो कैरी करती है, इट कंटेन्स वैल्यूज़, कम्युनिकेशंस, एथिक्स और आपका जो फैमिली से चला हुआ वर्षों पुराना जो आपका अनुभव. वेल्थ आएगा और जाएगा, जो फैमिली वैल्यूज इन बिजनेस वो रिटेन रहती है, सस्टेन रहती है. एक स्टडी है हार्वर्ड की, यदि अपन फॉर्च्यून 500 लेंगे तो उसमें से आउट ऑफ 500 केवल आफ्टर 30 इयर्स देयर इज ओनली 15% बिजनेस फैमिली बिजनेस रहते हैं और 85% खत्म हो जाते हैं. क्या उनको बिजनेस करना नहीं आता? व्हाट डज? केवल एक ही लाइन में मैं कहूं कि वो फैमिली लेगेसी में क्या कैरी करके लेकर आए हैं. और यदि मेरे से पूछे तो एक बिजनेस वैल्यूज, यदि मैं सबको देयर आर 100 पॉइंट्स बट आउट ऑफ 100 पॉइंट्स यदि मैं कहूँ 90% उसकी क्या है, देयर इज नो फैमिली वैल्यूज. 39 years का बिजनेस विद मी लाइक अग्रवाल पैकर्स एंड मूवर्स, और उससे पहले का बिजनेस, बिकॉज वी आर फ्रॉम बिजनेस फैमिली, छोटी दुकान थी पर बिजनेस का फैमिली में बिजनेस शुरू से चलता आया था. पिताजी की किराना की शॉप थी, दादाजी की छोटी किराना की शॉप थी. तो उसमें एक ही चीज़ थी, अपन कई बार कहते हैं ना, पोता दादा लो पोता बरते, राजस्थानी कहावत है. यानी कि दादाजी ने दुकान खोल दी तो ग्रैंड सन तक भी उस दुकान को चलाते हैं. वो व्हाट डज इट, वो है क्या? बस उन्होंने एक ही कहा कि जो आपकी दुकान पे जो आ रहा है ये ग्राहक नहीं है, ग्राहक के रूप में भगवान है. भगवान को जैसे पूजते हो ये पूजो. ये आपके बच्चों की फीस देता है, अपनी रोजी रोटी देता है, आज तो हम जो बड़ी गाड़ी में जहाज में घूमते हैं तो वो भी ये देता है, तो वो वहाँ से चलता हुआ मेरी फैमिली में घुसा, जो हमने एजुकेट किया और अपने दिल दिमाग में समा लिया। दिस इज द फैमिली वैल्यूज, इट्स मोर देन वेल्थ। जो आपको पिताजी दादाजी वेल्थ देते हैं करोड़ में, ये वो वेल्थ है जिसको मैं कहूँ एक पारस, जहाँ लगाया उसी को सोना कर लो। तो फैमिली वैल्यूज जो वो एक पारस के रूप में मिलती है, कौन उसको पारस के रूप में सोना करता है, कौन उसको रख कर कहीं छोड़ देता है, दैट्स अप टू दिस फैमिली वैल्यूज।
What I feel, legacy is something that goes far beyond wealth. It's largely to do with the philanthropic activities and the impact you're creating in the ecosystem. So in India, we have very, very few examples where we have seen transgenerational wealth being passed on or legacies being passed on. One such example, I guess, which everybody knows of, is the Tata Group, where everybody knows about who's Tata and what is the Tata Group does. But actually, there I feel they should be much more respected because of their philanthropic activities that they do, and this will continue even when Sir Ratan Tata is no more today, but his institutions, educational, hospitals, they continue to run, and they will for the next few decades. So that is a great example of what a transgenerational legacy that he has created. And I feel now is the right time in India where a lot of new wealth is created, and let's see how these guys come up with a structure, how they'll end up leaving a legacy behind.
So I think it is important for all of us to understand that the legacy is not just going to be carried on by the family members. Equally so, that legacy has to be instilled, the values have to be instilled in the professionals as well, who are running either the family business or the family office, whichever entity that it may be. Because to me, the family office is just one of the entities. If you were to visualize a galaxy with all kinds of stars and planets around it, then the family office is just one of those. And the family business, there could be multiple family businesses, there could be a philanthropic arm, there could be an investment office. Each one of those is part of that entire galaxy. So when we look at this legacy, how do you, Ramesh Agarwal ji, how do you look at balancing the family and the non-family professionals? While you were scaling your business, how did you try and balance the interests of the family and the non-family professionals?
जब नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जब आती है एंड जो बैटन जब एक दूसरे को नौबत आती है पकड़ाने की, बड़ा चैलेंज वाला पीरियड है वो। इट्स ए वेरी ट्रांजैक्शन पीरियड होता है कि बिकॉज कैसे लाइक पीपल जो आपके साथ काम कर रहे हैं और एक नई आपकी फैमिली की जनरेशन जो उसमें एंट्री कर रहे हैं, उनको किस तरह से बैलेंसिंग करना। यदि मेरे से कहो कि जैसे एक घड़ा जैसे कोई बनाता है कुम्हार, उसमें अंदर हाथ रखता है और बाहर चोट मारता है, बस उसी तरह आपको ये बैलेंसिंग करना होता है कि घड़े की शेप बढ़िया आए और अंदर हाथ भी रखें और बाहर चोट भी लगाते रहे और घड़ा शेप लेता रहे। ये इस तरह का एक बड़ा अनुभव रहा मेरा भी। बस जब फैमिली बिजनेस के अंदर जब नई एंट्री हुई तो अब करें कैसे, क्योंकि द पीपल हु आर वर्किंग विद यू सिंस मैनी 20 ईयर्स 30 ईयर्स, जिनके सहारे आप खड़े हुए थे, जो 24 घंटे आपके साथ काम किया, अब फैमिली के अंदर एक व्यक्ति जिसको उन्होंने खिलाया होगा वो आकर बोर्ड रूम में बैठ जाए और वो कहे कि सर, तो अब उसके लिए जो बैलेंसिंग करने की जो हुई कि वी हैड स्टार्टेड दैट, जो फैमिली की एंट्री हुई फ्लोर टू बोर्ड रूम। हम गलती क्या कर देते थे कि सीधा जब बेटे की एंट्री होती है फैमिली की नेक्स्ट कि बढ़िया सा इसका एक कैबिन बनाओ, बिकॉज उसे वेलकम करो क्योंकि ही इज कमिंग इन द बिजनेस। तो वो हमने कहीं वो गलती नहीं की। वी हैड टुक हिम और हर टू द फ्लोर के बाद लाइक इज ए सुपरवाइजर, देन एग्जीक्यूटिव, देन द मैनेजर, देन ही वेंट टू द बोर्ड रूम। कैबिन भी शायद कई सालों के बाद मिली होगी। तो फैमिली बिजनेस के अंदर हम जो मेरे अनुभव के हिसाब से कि जहां बैलेंसिंग करने के लिए टॉप टू बॉटम, देन दूसरा क्वेश्चन ये आता है कि वो बैलेंसिंग करे क्या। तो एक ही चीज होती है, जो हमारे जो साथ में काम करने वाले, या तो आप उनका बन जाओ या आप उनको अपना बना लो, दोनों में से कोई ऑप्शन नहीं है। तो वो बैलेंसिंग कर आई थिंक हमने जो 39 इयर्स में जहाँ खड़े हुए, तो वो एक इस तरह का बैलेंसिंग हमारा एक प्रैक्टिकल अनुभव रहा।
So getting people not to do a helicopter kind of parachuting into the business, but actually working from the shop floor as you're talking about. Great. Nilang, in your view, when you are starting off a family office after the monetization event, just tell us a little about that. How do family businesses trust professionals to come in and handle the wealth? Do they even do it? Is it going to be done by a family member who probably has some background or some knowledge of finance, but not completely so? And if you do hire professionals, how do you ensure that they have skin in the game, they follow the strategy that the family wants them to follow?
Good question. So this is something very similar to our journey. So we had a monetization event in 2019, prior to which, all the capital is invested in the business and there is no surplus capital available to invest. So, overnight there's a very drastic change. Like, you don't have a business to run, but you have a lot of money. And not everybody is equipped to manage money, and a businessman must be great at business, but managing money requires a different kind of acumen, a different kind of patience. You need to be in control of emotions, when you're dealing with asset classes like equity. So largely what I advise and what we had followed also was you go very conservative, you go allocate a large amount in debt, maybe 80-85%, and then have a 10-15% equity, and then you start getting comfortable with the asset class, because it's very easy to design a framework of equity, debt, in which commodities, startups, but you might not be comfortable with these asset classes to begin with. So what has worked and what we did was, to have a high data allocation, and slowly every 3 months, 6 months, we kept observing different asset classes, kept increasing allocations to whatever we are getting comfortable with, whatever we are seeing higher returns. As on today, if I were to tell you, we are at about 60-65% equity, which started at 10% equity. Because now we understand, we have had people in our team who understand it very well. We are getting comfortable with the drawdown risk available in equity. Now coming to the team, which is a very important aspect. The moment you have money, you will have 10 people at your doorstep wanting to help you manage that money. So it's very difficult to build trust on somebody you just met. So what we've been doing and what has again worked is you engage with everybody. You don't immediately land up investing with them. You take their advice and then you track how the advice has played out. And over a period of, let's say, couple of years, towards that you will know who's had your best interest, what kind of advice has worked, not worked. If you go with a sell-side wealth manager, it's very risky when you're just beginning. Once you're an evolved investor, it's yet fine. But when you're just beginning, you will end up buying a lot of AIFs. It might not be in your best of interest because it's illiquid. You yet not understood the illiquidity risk that it comes with. So over a period, I feel for somebody who's just beginning, can start with a multi-family office for advisory, because just to give perspective, a multi-family office would take a small advisory fee. They are supposed to not make any commissions onto any products they sell you. So ideally, they are supposed to be having, your best interest. So somebody with not a very large corpus and not having a team can start with a multi-family office. See a 2-3 year journey, how things are going. You need to spend time with your team managing your money, telling them about your risk appetite, your DNA, your life goals. There will be somebody wanting to just enjoy and chill, and which might be great, but there is somebody who wants to again start a new business, want to invest in 10 other large startups and go all in, and he's not planning for a retirement. So you need to be clear about your goals with the person who's going to manage your money. And maybe then they come up with a devised strategy, and then over 2-3 years, each one, realizes what he's comfortable with. He's seen the ups and downs, I feel largely it's a 5-year cycle, but in 3 years, you tend to know where is it going, And on hiring, eventually once you have crossed the 3-4 year journey, then maybe you can have an in-house team and, work like a matured single family office. Now, how does that work? So in these 3-4 year journeys, you would have met with a lot of people, and somebody, if you would have come across who you can trust, and so you can probably bring him on board initially, maybe as a consultant, and then once you are comfortable, once he's comfortable, and he can come as a full-time, maybe as a CIO or an employee, And how do you ensure now his interests are aligned with your goals and with the family office's goals? So the best way, what has worked for us and what we are working on is like our entire team has a carry structure. So we're getting influenced by how the larger funds work, where if the portfolio is performing and if we are beating benchmarks, there's a carry and the carry is equally distributed amongst the team. And this is for the direct portfolios and all. And if you are not really underperforming the benchmarks, so you have to be okay with no money. And there are very few senior professionals in the industry which are now heading family offices. So they also come with a structure where they come up with a co-investment for every investment that is proposed to the family to invest into. So that ensures a lot of accountability. When somebody is putting his own neck on the line, his own capital on the table, so then there is an immediate alignment, okay, when somebody's own money is, then he's not selling you anything, like, we are all in the same game then. So that has also been working. So a lot of our 80 to 90% of our team's investment capital is into a very similar structure to what a family office is investing into. So the team is fully aligned. Everybody understands the risk appetite of the family, and the team is also, somewhere having a similar DNA. And this we have built over a period of time.
It actually reminds me of this one particular family, the Job Holdings from Germany, who have a similar structure, but not in the family office necessarily, but in the business itself. That their top 3 CEOs, the CXO level people, the CEO and the CXO level people will actually have a certain equity stake in the business, and they would therefore be aligned with the interests of the family. So are you suggesting equity stake, or are you suggesting simply incentives?
It is great to have equity stake, but it's very difficult to get a monetization of an equity stake if the business is not really looking at an IPO. So what I feel has worked is incentives. If you have performed, you have made money, you get paid out, and you're happy. Because not unless you have a company that can be IPO'd eventually, that can make great wealth for employees. But not a lot of people are looking to get IPO'd. So if there is an IPO story, yes, definitely there has to be ESOPs, and that's the best way to retain talent and to get their full commitment on the table. But if you have an incentive structure that aligns with the returns, you are immediately driven to perform better.
Sure. So coming to the part on talent management, sir, the question that I would like to ask you is, how difficult is it to kind of manage talent which is family talent? And if the family talent is underperforming, how difficult is it to, so to speak, fire that talent versus a non-family manager?
जो आपने वर्ड कहा कि इट्स अ वेरी हार्ड डिसीजन, बहुत मुश्किल का डिसीजन है, मगर हमने लिया वो मैं आपको शेयर कर रहा हूँ. ऑफकोर्स जनरली शेयर नहीं करते. हमारे कुछ कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट्स है हमारी कंपनी में. भर्ती करने का हक है, एचआर को निकालने का हक किसी को भी नहीं है. इधर सीएमडी हो, एमडी हो, डायरेक्टर्स हो, सीईओ हो, कोई भी हो, निकालने का हक किसी को भी नहीं है. दे कैन लाइक जैसे चार्जशीट बनाते हैं, इसी तरह दे कैन रेज देयर चार्जशीट, दे कैन रिकमेंड इट कि दिस जेंटलमैन इज नॉट परफॉर्मिंग नाइसली, अंडर परफॉर्मेंस करते हैं, नंबर्स नहीं है. बट हमारे पास कई बार, एक बार गलती से घर के एक फैमिली मेंबर ने किसी को कहा कि यू आर नॉट परफॉर्मिंग वेल एंड आई थिंक यू गेट आउट. तो देखो, जब एग्जिट होता है तो कहीं ना कहीं उसका इंटरव्यू होता है. देन पता लगा कि एग्जिट इसका किसी फैमिली मेंबर ने कहा कि यू आर नॉट परफॉर्मिंग एंड गेट आउट. तो इमीडिएटली जो एग्जिट का रास्ता है वो हमारे पास एक 5 आदमी और 3 आदमी की कमेटी बैठती है. किसी को भी एक अपना हक है एक वोट देने का, मतलब तो 3 आदमी की कमेटी या 5 आदमी की कमेटी ही किसी को बाहर करती है, पूरा छानबीन करके. देन वहां पर एक सिंगल आदमी ने उसको बाहर कर दिया. देन अगेन उसके निर्णय के ऊपर फिर दोबारा 5 आदमी की कमेटी बैठी कि जिस निर्णय ने इस आदमी ने ब्रेक किया अपनी कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट, व्हाट शुड वी डू. यू विल बी सरप्राइज, शॉक्ड टू नो दैट फैमिली मेंबर वाज out for 6 months from the business and he joined after 180 days. So that the hard decision was taken by family board or council or so and so. तो फैमिली बिजनेस के अंदर ये बड़ा हार्ड है, बट जो कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट आपके हैं वो इतने सॉलिड इतने होने चाहिए जिसके कारण कि वो हर व्यक्ति किसी को कहते हुए और करते हुए 3 बार सोचे. और जब आपके इस तरह के कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट है तो जो प्रोफेशनल आपके साथ में करते हैं वो ये सोचते हैं कि मैं किसी के अंडर में काम नहीं करता, मैं एक बोर्ड के अंडर में काम करता हूँ, एंड जैसे बोर्ड के लोग ट्रस्टी है, आई एम आल्सो वन ऑफ द ट्रस्टी. तो इस तरह का एक
I think that's very, very interesting because it is building the business for a certain legacy. And I don't think the 33-13-3 rule is going to really come up if you have people who look at themselves as owners of the business. So I want to ask you, maybe first Sir, you and then Nilang, about what is the kind of mentoring that is required for both family and non-family members, whether it is in the business or in the family office. What is the kind of peer support that you provide within the family office or within the family business to members of both the family and the non-family professionals who join the business? So you could go first.
ऐसे जैसे मैंने कहा और अभी जैन साहब भी चर्चा कर रहे थे, फैमिली और नॉन फैमिली बिजनेस एक होता है टू इन्वॉल्व टू द पीपल जो वर्किंग विद अस, एक होता है टू इन्फॉर्म देम. इन्फॉर्मेशन जनरली हमारे फैमिली बिजनेस में क्या करते हैं कि जस्ट वी इन्फॉर्म देम, ओके जेंटलमैन कल ये करना वो करना ऐसा करना. और एक होता है इन्वॉल्व देम, वही ये चर्चा कर रहे हैं तो 3-4 लोग मिलकर सबकी भागीदारी, यानी कि हम कुछ भी करने जा रहे हैं. एक कहा कि मैंने ये सोचा कि चलो इस प्रोजेक्ट को स्टार्ट करते हैं, तो पीपल और प्रोफेशनल सर्विस करते हैं, क्या कहेंगे ओके सर विल डू इट. एक और इन्वॉल्वमेंट, इसमें से 2 आदमी ने भी कह दिया या एक ने भी कहा कि ये फायदे का धंधा नहीं है, रिस्क है, कंपटीशन बहुत ज़्यादा है, तो हम जनरली क्या करते हैं कि इन्वॉल्व कर उसको इन्फॉर्म कर, अरे तो आपको नहीं पता बिजनेस तो हमने किया हुआ है. तो वहाँ कहीं ना कहीं वो उसका इंटरेस्ट लैप्स हो जाता है. द डे विल कम, क्योंकि एक स्टेज के बाद जो प्रोफेशनल है वो उनको धन नहीं चाहिए, उनको इज्जत चाहिए, पूछ चाहिए, क्योंकि वो फैमिली जैसे बन जाते हैं. और जब पूछ नहीं होती तो एक होता ना अटैचमेंट पे डिटैचमेंट, वो डिटैचमेंट की तरफ चले जाते हैं. तो मेरा ये कहना है कि इन्वॉल्व करना है न कि इन्फॉर्म करना है, जिसके कारण हम वो हमारे साथ लंबे ठहरेंगे. और मेंटोर जो प्रोफेशनल नेक्स्ट जनरेशन को करें, वो एक क्योंकि वो करेंगे कब, नेक्स्ट जनरेशन जब उनको यदि ये मानेगी कि यस ही नोज एवरीथिंग, मेरे को कम मालूम है, अभी 3 साल 4 साल हुए हैं, इसको 20 साल हुए हैं, तो जब तक उसके दिल में दिमाग में ये आपका फैमिली की जो वैल्यूज का जो एक कंसेप्ट है वो नहीं डलेगा तो वो उसको एक्सेप्ट नहीं करेंगे. आपको उनको एक्सेप्ट कैसे कराए शुरू से, क्या वो उसको सर कहना शुरू कर दे या आपकी फैमिली वाले उसको सर कहें. तो कल्चर ऐसा डेवलप करना है कि या तो अंकल कहें या सर कहें, तो उसका रिस्पेक्ट अलग बन जाता है. अब आपका एक सीईओ एक नए डायरेक्टर को आकर कहता है कि सर व्हाट शुड आई डू, और कैबिन में खड़ा हो जाता है, तो वो कुछ दिन के बाद फिर वो जो सर है वो 5-10-15 साल के बाद जो टेबल के सामने टेबल के उस तरह बैठा हुआ है, वो एक रिस्पेक्ट खत्म हो जाता है. तो फैमिली के अंदर ये सारी की सारी जो वैल्यूज, कोड ऑफ कंडक्ट, आपकी एसओपी, आपके रूल्स रेगुलेशन इतने सॉलिड बनते जाए, जिसको बोलते हैं ना एक हमारा संविधान अपने देश का जैसे है, इसी तरह आपकी कंपनी का ग्रंथ संविधान वो ऐसा बन जाए, उससे बाउंड्री से बाहर कोई नहीं जाए. एवरीवन शुड हैव द देयर पावर बट विद इन द बाउंड्री. तो बाउंड्री और पावर को इस तरह डिफाइन किया जाए अम्बेडकर की तरह कि वो कोई इससे बाहर न जाए. तो ये वैल्यूज ईयर्स टू ईयर्स ये बिजनेस मेरे ख्याल में चलता रहता है. और हमने बड़ा इसको इम्प्लीमेंट किया, उसको हमने इसका नाम, हमारे जो रूल्स रेगुलेशन है उसका नाम दिया HRO, हेड ऑफिस रूटीन ऑर्डर्स. वो ऑर्डर एक नहीं बनते, 5 आदमी बैठ के ऑर्डर्स नियम बनाते हैं, उसके बाद चर्चा होती है, उसमें प्लस होता है माइनस होता है, बाद में वो ऑर्डर का रूप ले लेता है और वो फिर सभी के लिए लागू होता है, चाहे मैं क्यों ना हूँ, चाहे हमारा नेक्स्ट जनरेशन की वो क्यों ना हो और क्यों ना हमारे सारे एम्प्लॉइज हो, सब एक टेबल पर बैठेंगे और उनके ऊपर एग्जीक्यूट करेंगे। जो भी वायलेट करेगा सबके लिए नियम एक जैसा ही होगा।
So I'll touch upon both the aspects on the business and the family office. So we have a couple of operating businesses also, and we have a couple of next generation guys are in their early and mid 20s just joining in. So what have we thought, like, coming into a family business for the next generation, it's very difficult to get the same kind of commitment and discipline when it's your own. So as a very conscious decision, we've asked them to go out, work at a few different places, get mentorship, get the discipline, get the commitment, and basis your merits, you will be then probably absorbed into the business once you are at a certain level where you are, serious about your responsibilities. So they've now been working at, somebody's working in an industry, somebody's on the shop floor, and somebody's working in a fintech is something of his own interest. So the idea is not to just, bring him the next day into the family business and start it. Let them explore, let them learn, let them know what they like. And then probably, as time passes, they will figure. And it is very clear that the next generation is not coming into the family office at this point at least, because it can be very risky for somebody young to be sitting with a blank checkbook and, he will like everything. And so only once they have made their mistakes in life and maybe, another 10 years down the line, and they can start getting involved the other side. On the family office side, mentoring is a very, very tricky aspect because it's a very new concept in India, and we don't really have a lot of family office professionals. So largely what has worked and what we keep doing is we have a lot of active peer networks. So it is self-mentoring, you are active in a peer network, each one is very candidly sharing their mistakes, what is working, not working. So you learn from your mistakes and you help others learn from your mistakes and you learn from others' mistakes as well. That is the best way of mentoring in this space today.
Sure. I think we're running out of time. Maybe just one last question. What would be your advice to the next gen family business leaders and to the family office leaders, if at all?
गलतियाँ सिखाती है और मजबूत करती है। पास्ट की जितनी गलती है उसको एक पेपर पे डालो, एनालाइज करो और वो उनके साथ शेयर करो कि ये हमने लास्ट में गलती की है। एडवाइस देंगे तो कोई कम मानते हैं कि हमने ज़िंदगी में 22 गलती करी है, 20 गलती करी है, तो उस नेक्स्ट जनरेशन को बोलो कि उसको कैसे ठीक करे, वो अपने आप ही सोल्यूशन देंगे कि ये ऐसा करना चाहिए, ऐसा करना चाहिए। हाँ जी, कर लो, बस कहानी ख़त्म। कि हम उनको भाषण न देकर, ज्ञान न बांटकर, अपनी गलतियाँ लिखकर उनको बताएं और उन गलतियों को उनसे ही सोल्यूशन ढूंढे और वो फिर उनसे वो अपने आप ही एकजुट करेंगे कि ज्ञान कम बांटे और गलतियाँ ज़्यादा उनसे बांटे। ऐसा मेरा वो है, ये अनुभव मेरा थोड़ा सा ठीक रहा।
My advice would be to, keep structures very simple, when you're setting up or starting a family office or, to keep everything kind of simple, because it's very easy to get swayed in this market because there's so much of noise, there are so many asset classes, and you are seeing a presentation on AI and cryptos and startups, and so it's very easy to get swayed, and you will not realize in the next 5 years you have 50% of your assets blocked in these asset classes which are illiquid. It's not that they are not great asset classes. So if one was to even tap with those asset classes, you make these small investments with your experimental money and learn these asset classes. So let's say when we have allocated 3 to 5% for these experiments where we make these small allocations, and that's the only way you can learn about these asset classes. But the larger allocations are to again tried, tested asset classes where we know the money is safe, because once you have reached at a certain stage in life, you don't want to go back to where you came from. So I feel at least there has to be a lot of focus on preserving what you have already made and maybe growing at a compounded manner, and you can miss the next one multi-bagger, but largely the focus should be largely on compounding year onwards, like for a family office at least.
I think that's well said, but I would just go one step beyond to say that it's not just the family wealth that you're trying to preserve and compound through the family office. I think one will need to kind of zoom out and look at how do I preserve the family itself. And I think that's where the difference is going to be, because the family office is just one operational, nuts and bolts kind of a piece. If the family doesn't remain, then the family office doesn't really make sense. So to me, I think for all of you assembled here, because one looks at family businesses in and out, teaching the next gen, looking at the kind of differences in the opinions between the senior gen and the next gen, it's so important to preserve what is the core of your family business or your family office, which is the business family, before you start looking at how do I grow my wealth, how do I compound my wealth. So thank you all of you for a patient listen, and if there are any questions, maybe we can take one at most, and if there's any question.
Very pertinent, because there is no legacy involved in this. But if there is a small family with a modest wealth, wants to someone to handle it on the basis of, let's say, we choose an index, plus or minus a percentage you share, will be appropriate approach. Suppose you have a modest wealth, a family, which don't have much legacy to carry forward, but they want a reasonably good return. Suppose they say we'll agree on an index. If you do better than that, you have a percentage on that. If you do worse, well, you pay for it. Do you think it will work? Is the question clear, please?
We are not very clear with the question.
Okay. Let us.
So maybe we want to take it outside.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So, if I'm just getting the question, so we try to benchmark our performance with the, first you come out to a benchmark, what, if let's say we are looking at equities, so Nifty can be a good benchmark, and then the professional is managing your money, whatever return he has generated, you compare that return with the benchmark return, and if he's outperforming the benchmark, then he's liable to get us a reward for whatever he's done. Like, it does work, yeah, that's how it works.
All right, thank you so much to our panelists for that vital and insightful session. Can we have a big round of applause on building enduring teams for transgenerational legacy? I request you all to please come ahead of the table for a photo op. And now I request Mr. Ashutosh Bishnoi to please come on stage to felicitate our panelists. Once again, ladies and gentlemen, can we have a big round of applause? I request you all to please come ahead for a photo op. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you. You all may please take your seat.